Welcome back to Bookish Brits. My name is Michelle and today I wanted to talk to you about 5 books that I feel like everyone loved except me. I know that books aren't for everyone and that there will always be somebody who doesn't like the book that you absolutely loved and raved about, but there are certain books that I feel like a lot of people really love them and I will read them and it just feels like I somehow missed out what everyone else saw. So here are 5 of the most obvious books that I feel like everyone loved but me. So the first book that everyone loved but me was 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher. I've seen so many wonderful reviews of this book and lots of people raving about it and recommending it for, you know, fans of other books like with issues like talking about suicide and depression and things, but I hated it. I really did. I thought the behavior of the girl who makes the tapes was really awful and it just left like a bad taste in my mouth about what she was putting these people through. Like I could understand to an extent that the book is talking about how like the smallest things can mean something different to somebody else and that, you know, these small unkindnesses, whether they're small or whether they're really massive or whatever, the things that people do have an impact on other people around them. I love that message. I just think that the way that message is told throughout this story was really infuriating to me. The second book that everyone seems to rave about but me is Scarred by Julia Hoban. This also has an alternative title in the US called Willow, and it's about a girl who has experiences with self-harm. And when it was published, I was really excited to read it, and I was thinking self-harm. Now there's a topic that I'd really like to see explored in young adult literature, and then I read the book, and it is one of the few books that I wanted to throw across the room. I hated everything about this book. I thought it was very unrealistic and just while I appreciate the fact that Julia Hoban wanted to explore issues of self-harm, I feel like it didn't represent what I believe to be the experiences of somebody who self-harms. Like, it strikes a really, really false note for me. I feel like sometimes readers will sympathize with an author or with a story that touches on difficult topics for the sole reason that they've touched on difficult topics and not because they've touched on difficult topics and they've written about it with any kind of empathy or understanding at all. And for me personally, you can't just write a story about suicide or depression or self-harm or any of those things unless you're doing it in a compassionate way that feels realistic. The third book on my list is going to be probably the most controversial on my list, and it is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I appreciate what Stephen Chbosky was trying to do with this book and in creating this main character who seems like kind of an every person, right? Like we can all kind of relate to who, was it Charlie? Who he is as a person, kind of shy and awkward on the outskirts of everything going on in high school. But I really didn't like his extreme naivety. I just felt like I should have been able to relate to his character, and instead he felt so far removed from anybody that I recognized, so that it became like a really distant character for me that I didn't feel connected to. And also while I appreciate that a lot of high school students went through a lot of the things that happen in this book, it just felt like too much gone on. There was like every single issue in the world, like this guy struggling to come out, and sexual abuse and physical abuse and depression and suicide and drug taking and underage sex and anorexia and everything that I felt bombarded on all sides, like this happens and then this happens and then this happens and and instead of feeling sympathy, again, it felt too far away, like in the same way that the main character's innocence didn't seem believable. It also didn't feel real to me that so much happens. Like I felt like if the author had just, you know, like picked one or two or three or four or something and then just sort of focused on those issues, then it would have been a better story for me. Another book that I didn't particularly enjoy, though many people have, is Shatter Me by Tahera Mafi. Honestly, there's so much love that I've seen absolutely everywhere for this series and the characters in it, and everyone is like, Warner and Juliet, and I read it and it was just okay. Like the first few pages, and I actually had tingles that things were so exciting, and I loved this whole touch me, don't touch me sort of feeling that I got from it. And then it carried on and it just like fizzled out for me. I didn't get it towards the end. I didn't like understand where things were going, and it just wasn't as exciting for me as it was for everyone else. And the final book that I wanted to talk to you about today is a book that I've already reviewed on my own personal booktube channel, and that is Obsidian by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Loads of people love this series of books, loads of people, and I read it and it was one of those books where it felt like everything that I hate about YA books was thrown into this book. I hated the love interest's name. Like, I thought it was really, really ridiculous. His name is Demon. I hated that he was very arrogant and unkind to the main character. I hated that he was one of those overprotective guys who tries to control what happens, not only in the main character, his love interest's life, but also his sister's life, because he's the brother, he's a man, he's supposed to be macho and grrr, and it made me just grrr right at him because I can't stand that. And I felt like the main character herself was a bit of a wet noodle that didn't really stand up to him very much. I loved that she was a book blogger. That was the real highlight of the whole first book for me, but no, I feel like a certain line is crossed, and you know, I can't go back from that, even if 10,000 people tell me that the series gets better. I can no longer do it. It's just not gonna happen for me. But what can I say? You know, books are not for everyone. There's always gonna be that person who didn't love the book that you did. Maybe another time I'll tell you about all the books that everyone loved that I did not finish. Leave lots of comments down below, or give me a thumbs up if you would like to see that video, and I will try to make it happen. Thank you so much for watching. Please be kind to me in comments down below, and I will see you next time.